In this segment, we're going to talk about how jewelers used to get people to walk through their front door. In other words, how they connected with their customer. And we're also going to talk about how you should connect with your customer today. Let's take a look. We are going to step back to the year 1990 and introduce to you a guy named Bob. And Bob happens to own a jewelry store. And he's trying to get people into his store, which just happens to be called Bob's Jewelry Store. To do this, he needs to connect with future customers. However, back then, not only was Bob trying to connect with that future customer, but other businesses are trying to hook up with that customer as well. Department stores, discount stores, chain stores, television shopping had really started to take off, and of course, other jewelry stores. So to grab their attention, Bob would rely on his trusted and traditional forms of advertising, which included radio, television, print, and special events. All of these methods were employed by Bob, and if they were successful, they would bring customers into Bob's store. And once there, they would check out his inventory. And if all went well, they'd make a purchase and become an official Bob's Jewelry Store customer. And of course, they loved the piece they bought and had a great time at Bob's store. So what do? Well, they tell other people about the wonderful experience they had. And that good news was spread through word of mouth. They'd tell their friends, and the friends had also seen Bob's advertising and thought, gee, maybe I should go into Bob's Jewelry Store. And the cycle would continue from there. That's pretty much how it happened back then in the year 1990, and for a lot of years prior to that. If we jump ahead 10 years to the future, we wind up in the year 2000. Yeah, the year 2000. If you're over 40, remember? You know, as kids, that was the year we were promised we'd have flying cars and jetpacks when we got to the year 2000. The millennium. Oh yeah. Well, guess what? That didn't happen. Anyway, in the year 2000, Bob still has his traditional forms of advertising, and he's still looking for that future customer to walk through the door. Things are all pretty much the same, except this one thing popped up that we weren't promised as kids, and it was called the Internet. And with the Internet, you could surf the World Wide Web and search for all kinds of things, like maybe stores that sell jewelry. And if Bob had it going on, and he did, he had his own website called bobsjewelry.com. And the site would invite people to come into Bob's store, or they could look at Bob's in-store inventory in the comfort of their very own home or office. Now this is where the story gets really weird. Hey, we didn't get flying cars or jetpacks in the year 2000, but listen up. Here's what we did get. You could order items online. Yeah, I know. It's crazy, isn't it? How'd they figure all that stuff out? However that customer wound up making a purchase, whether in-house or online, they became an official Bob's Jewelry Store customer. That customer told others, and the good news spread through the word of mouth. And that's how things worked out in the year 2000. If we jump ahead another 10 years to the year 2010, holy smokes, what's happened here? We still have Bob's traditional forms of advertising trying to entice his future customer into his store, but let's see what's different. If we look at our web search, you'll see there are more online offerings. Now there are stores, auctions, and personal sales. BobsJewelry.com is even more powerful because it can now present items that Bob doesn't even have in his store, by taking advantage of the digital communication of jewelry. In other words, by using GemVision products such as CounterSketch and Matrix, his inventory is expanded and it lives as digital images. Now Bob doesn't need to spend a fortune filling his showcases with product that could sit there for years. He doesn't need all that inventory on hand because he takes advantage of his prototype kits and digital inventory. And by creating the piece with the rapid fulfillment of the product by using Matrix and Bob's in-house production staff, or he could have Stellar create the piece if he wanted to. Plus, he had the added ease of having Stellar take care of all his CounterSketch custom production, which really cut down on his overhead, giving him more profit. And as the story continues, the customer would make a purchase and become, yep, that's right, an official Bob's Jewelry Store customer, and then they'd tell others. However, in this day and age, when people tell others, it's not only the best friend just down the street, it's global. Through the social network, people are communicating and sharing all sorts of ideas and experiences through Facebook, Twitter, and other forms of communication. Quite a difference from how the way things used to be done. If we step back and take a quick peek at 1990 again, now it really looks like something's missing, doesn't it? You know, one of the things that we try to do with your CounterSketch training is to get you thinking about change, changing how you sell by using CounterSketch and by changing the way you connect with your customer and the marketing of your store. Staying current with change and how you handle it is just as important. You see, there are stores out there that are still running this business model from 1990, and they refuse to change because, well, that's how we've always done it, and we don't need any of that stupid computer stuff. My dad ran this store for 30 years, and he made lots of money without a stupid computer or that butterfly net. What? Well, yeah, I meant internet. You'd be surprised how many stores aren't around anymore because they refuse to change. If you're running the 1990 business model, you might want to think about changing it. Because I can pretty much guarantee you that the guy down the street is running this model. And if you compare the two, who's going to win the game when it comes to connecting with customers? I wonder who. Where'd that CounterSketch guy go? Hey, Margaret, do we have any more peanut butter?